Somewhere along the way, you started treating your body like a tool, like something to manage, push through, optimize, or override when it gave you signals you didn't have time for. And it worked for a bit until the tool started failing, until rest started feeling like a luxury, until you genuinely couldn't remember the last time you were in your body instead of just running it. This is the Empress, and she's going to ask us to put the override down. Hi guys, I'm MJ. Welcome to the Arcana Surrender, a Major Arcana series for people who are learning tarot, for people who are rebuilding their intuition, or doing both. I'm going to be working through all 22 cards of the Major Arcana, one video at a time, using my own deck, the Arcana Surrender Tarot. I made this deck specifically for neurodivergent brains like mine, for people who are late diagnosed, ADHD, ADHD, for highly sensitive folk, burnt out people, or all of it. I made it Major Arcana only on purpose. I do believe the Major Arcana deserves our full attention before we add anything else, especially while learning tarot. The 22 first cards of the tarot, they are the foundation, the archetypes. They're the big themes of a human life. And if you learn them deeply, if we take our time, and if we let them become part of our lives and part of how we think, if they become automatic for us, everything else in tarot opens up. So we're going to be taking our time here, no rushing through, just you, me, and these 22 cards. One video at a time. Subscribe if you want to be here for it. And if you want to read with this deck yourself, the link will be in the description. The Empress is card number 3 in the Major Arcana. And I'm going to start with what we're looking at because this card is doing a lot for me. She's a pregnant woman who has roots growing downward from her body and branches growing upward and outward from her back like wings made of wood. She grows in all directions simultaneously. She is the rooted thing and the reaching thing at the same time. She stands in a beautiful field of wildflowers. They're not cultivated, there's no arranged rows, but everything here is growing wild and also in every direction. She's surrounded by daisies and poppies and some flowers I can't name. And none of them were planted. They just grew because, well, they were given the right conditions to grow. Behind her, you'll see deep space, stars and clouds and purples and blues. The universe itself, basically, as her backdrop. And that's because the Empress's abundance is not small. It's not contained. Well, it's basically cosmic in scale. To her right, you'll see a big pink full moon, the strawberry moon, the harvest moon, the one that says everything's ripening. You'll also see northern lights bleeding into the frame, something that just can't be manufactured, something that happens when the conditions align in ways that we can't even force. The Empress is the card of embodied abundance. In traditional tarot, the Empress is the card of fertility, abundance, nature, and the embodied feminine. And here I'm talking about feminine energy and not necessarily someone's sex or gender identity. She's usually depicted seated on a throne, in a garden, pregnant, and surrounded by wheat and flowing water. The Empress is associated with Venus, with beauty, sensuality, pleasure. The body as something to be inhabited, rather than managed. She's the card that says you're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to receive. You're allowed to be nourished. So when the Empress shows up upright in a reading, she's asking about your relationship to your own body and to abundance. And this is what I meant by feminine energy. So she's asking you, are you receiving? Are you resting? Are you allowing yourself pleasure and nourishment? Or are you only running on output and overdrive? She tends to appear as a reminder if someone's been giving and giving and receiving too little. She shows up when the soil's been farmed without being replenished. Reverse, the Empress can point to creative blocks. It can point to you being disconnected from your body, to you being neglecting yourself, or even having a relationship to productivity that's harsh or punishing. If she shows up reversed, it can also be because you might have been giving and giving to the point of depletion or pouring from an empty vessel. In a spread, the Empress is one of the most embodied cards in the deck. She's asking questions about what lives in your body and not your mind. Not what do you think, but more how do you feel? She's not asking what you're producing, but what you're growing. There's a big difference there. And here's a little added touch for those of us who are in recovery. Burnout happens when you forget you're a living being, among other things, that we're meant to go through seasons. That even if it looks like something's happening from the outside, it doesn't mean nothing's happening. A tree in the winter isn't failing to be a tree. It's still being a tree. It's doing exactly what it needs to be doing to keep being a tree in the spring. We know this. It's obvious, but we don't remember to apply it to ourselves. For ourselves, we usually apply a different model, the model of a machine. Input, output. Maintenance is only relevant when breakdown is imminent. We need to put out maximum efficiency at all times. And we see productivity as proof of worth. And then when the machine fails, and the machine will fail because we are not machines, when it fails, we treat it like we morally failed at life. We say we crashed, that we broke down. We do use the language of broken equipment for what's actually a living thing that ran out of season. Look at the roots on this card. They don't go down reluctantly. The roots and the branches move together. The deeper the root, the further the branch can reach. Growth downward and growth upward are not opposites. They're the same movement in different directions. This is what recovery actually looks like. Recovery is not the absence of growth. The rest, the stillness, going inward, the slowing down, all of that is root work. All of it is what makes the next expansion possible. You're not behind, you're rooting. For those of us who are neurospicy or highly sensitive, the Empress carries something specific. Because our bodies often know things before our brains do, we do feel the overload before we can name it. Our bodies feel the depletion before our brains can clock it, or before anybody else could ever clock it. We feel the wrongness of a situation in our nervous system weeks before anything becomes officially wrong. and we've spent years being told this sensitivity is a problem, that our bodies are too loud, our needs are too much, and that our signals are too frequent. The Empress says your signals aren't too loud. Your body is appropriately calibrated for what it was built to carry. The problem is not that you felt too much. Ever. It was never the problem. The problem's that we're operating in conditions that required us to ignore our body and our feelings for way too long. The Empress is pregnant in this card. She's carrying something not yet born and that we can't see yet. That's where a lot of us are in recovery. We can feel something new's forming. We can't show it to anyone yet. We can't prove it exists, but something is growing that wasn't there before. It's growing in the space that opened up when we stopped running. That's Empress's energy. That's what rest creates room for. So what does she ask of us? She asks us to stop auditing our rest. She wants us to stop treating nourishment as something to be earned through output, to stop running the machine model on a living body and wondering why it keeps breaking down. She wants us to put our feet on the ground, to eat the meal, to sleep the sleep. She wants us to let the roots grow as deeply as they need to go without rushing them towards visible growth. The northern lights, the wildflowers, they don't happen because someone forced them. They happen when conditions align. You are the conditions. Rest is how you align them. Pull the Empress from your deck. Look at her roots, her branches. Ask yourself, where in my life right now am I farming without replenishing? Where am I expecting growth from soil I've never fed? And then ask yourself, what would it mean to root right now instead of reach? Not forever, but just for this season. What would you let go deeper if you stopped insisting on visible growth? The wildflowers around her aren't planted. They grew because conditions were right. You are currently working on the conditions, and that's the work. And you got this. That brings us to the end of this card. If it spoke to you, you can subscribe. We're going to go through all 22 Major Arcana cards together. And if you're new here, start from the beginning of the playlist. It's designed to be taken in order. If you want to read with this deck as well, the link for it will be in the description below. Please also drop in the comments what came up for you with this one. I will read every single one.